99% of men don't do this. Women love it. Sounds extreme, maybe. But let me ask you this. How many times have you seen a guy who seems to have everything going for him, yet he still struggles to create a real emotional connection with women? He looks good. He's successful. He says the right things. But somehow something is missing. And meanwhile, another man, maybe not the richest, maybe not the most attractive, walks into a room and effortlessly captures a woman's attention without trying too hard. Why? Because attraction is rarely about perfection. It's about emotional experience. It's about how a woman feels in your presence. And today we're going to uncover the hidden psychological triggers that most men completely overlook. The subtle things women deeply crave but almost never say out loud. If you stay until the end of this video, we're talking about genuine emotional intelligence. Not the fake internet version built on manipulation, lines, or pretending to be someone you're not. We're talking about genuine emotional intelligence, the kind that creates chemistry naturally, the kind that makes a woman think about you long after the conversation ends. And trust me, the final secret. Now, before we go deeper, I want you to really think about this personally. Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right, but still not getting the emotional connection you wanted? Maybe you were kind, maybe you were attentive, maybe you gave your time, energy, and effort, yet something still felt off. If that's happened to you, you are not alone. So many men are never taught how emotional attraction truly works. Women rarely explain it clearly because much of it happens subconsciously. Let's start with something almost no one talks about correctly: the power of touch before intimacy. I read these comments, and conversations like this help thousands of people feel less alone. Presence is magnetic because it's rare. And today we're diving into the deeper psychology behind attraction, emotional safety. Most people are distracted. Most people are thinking about themselves. Not surface-level dating tricks, not manipulation, real understanding. Let's start with something almost no one talks about correctly: the power of touch before intimacy. Most men think attraction is built primarily through words. They focus on conversation, compliments, texting, or trying to appear impressive. But women experience attraction through emotional and physical safety combined. In psychology, we know that nonverbal communication often carries more emotional weight than verbal communication. A gentle touch, when done respectfully and naturally, can communicate warmth, calmness, and emotional presence far more deeply than rehearsed words ever could. Picture this. A couple has been dating for a few weeks. The man is funny, intelligent, attractive, but every interaction feels rushed toward an outcome. Every touch feels impatient. Every moment carries hidden pressure. The woman may smile, she may participate, but internally, her nervous system never fully relaxes. She doesn't feel emotionally safe enough to fully connect. Now compare that to another experience. They're sitting together after dinner. There's no rush, no performance, no pressure. He notices she's tense after a long day. Instead of escalating physically, he gently rubs her shoulders for a moment, slowly, attentively, without expectation. In that moment, her body receives a completely different message. You can relax around me. That changes everything. A psychologically mature man pays attention, can reduce stress hormones while increasing feelings of emotional trust and bonding. But here's the critical part most men miss. It only works when it's genuine. Women are incredibly sensitive to intention. If touch feels transactional, pressured, or performative, it creates resistance instead of attraction. And honestly, this applies beyond dating. Think about your own life. We all remember people who made us feel calm, understood, emotionally safe. Presence is magnetic because it's rare. Most people are distracted. Most people are thinking about themselves. But someone who is truly present with you, that creates emotional impact. There's an old Stoic idea that strength is quiet. Real confidence doesn't force itself into every moment. And women often respond deeply to men who carry that grounded energy. A man who can slow down, a man who listens. A man who doesn't rush intimacy because he understands emotional connection creates physical chemistry naturally. Now let's talk about flirting, because this is where so many men unintentionally sabotage themselves. A lot of men think flirting means impressing a woman. They think they need perfect lines, nonstop confidence, or constant entertainment. But healthy flirting is not performance. It's emotional playfulness. It's shared energy. The most attractive flirting usually feels effortless because it's rooted in comfort rather than desperation. I once heard a woman describe the most attractive date she ever had. Playful teasing creates tiny emotional sparks that keep conversations memorable. And somehow, that made her feel more seen than endless compliments ever had. Why? because he wasn't trying to win her approval. He was simply enjoying the interaction. That's powerful. When a man becomes overly focused on being liked, women often feel emotional pressure. But when he's relaxed, playful, and emotionally grounded, the interaction becomes safe and exciting at the same time. The best flirting creates mutual enjoyment. It invites connection instead of demanding attention. Moments of tension, laughter, curiosity, surprise, warmth. One feels relaxing, the other feels exhausting. Women are often incredibly intuitive about emotional energy, but respect matters deeply here. Flirting should never feel humiliating, manipulative, or invasive. Now let's move into one of the most underestimated gestures in attraction, touching her hair. Think about how different it feels when someone is genuinely enjoying your company versus trying desperately to impress you. She stiffens internally because her nervous system hasn't decided he feels emotionally safe yet. They can sense when a man is fully present versus performing confidence. They've shared stories. She feels relaxed. There's mutual eye contact. Real confidence has softness in it. And honestly, this is where many modern conversations about dating become shallow. This sounds simple, but psychologically it carries emotional significance because hair is deeply personal for many women. Yet he still struggles to create a real emotional connection with women. A gentle gesture like brushing hair away from her face can feel deeply intimate. The subtle things women deeply crave but almost never say out loud. But timing is everything. A lot of men fail because they skip emotional pacing. You're going to understand attraction in a completely different way. And when emotional comfort is absent, even small gestures can feel intrusive. We're talking about genuine emotional intelligence. In the first, a man reaches for a woman's hair too early in an interaction. That's why I want you to comment below honestly. What's one thing you wish women understood about men? In the second scenario, there's already warmth between them. They've laughed together. In psychology, we know that nonverbal communication often carries more emotional weight than verbal communication. He gently moves a strand of hair from her face during a quiet moment. Completely different emotional response. Same gesture, different emotional foundation. An emotional presence far more deeply than rehearsed words ever could. You cannot fake emotional timing, but every interaction feels rushed toward an outcome. People obsess over moves instead of emotional awareness. The woman may smile, she may participate, but internally, her nervous system never fully relaxes. A psychologically mature man pays attention. Now compare that to another experience. They're sitting together after dinner. He understands that patience often creates deeper attraction than pressure ever could. He notices she's tense after a long day. Instead of escalating physically, not emotional suppression, emotional restraint. In that moment, her body receives a completely different message. The ability to move slowly instead of impulsively. That creates trust. Now let's talk about one of the smallest gestures that communicates enormous emotional energy. But here's the critical part most men miss. It only works when it's genuine. Done respectfully and naturally, this gesture often communicates grounded confidence and protective awareness without saying a single word. If touch feels transactional, pressured, or performative, it creates resistance instead of attraction. When a man lightly guides a woman through a crowded room or places a calm hand on her back while walking beside her, think about your own life. We all remember people who made us feel calm, understood, emotionally safe. And emotionally steady people are deeply attractive because they help regulate stress in others. Most people are distracted. Most people are thinking about themselves. Human beings co-regulate emotionally. That means your emotional state affects the people near you. There's an old Stoic idea that strength is quiet. Real confidence doesn't force itself into every moment. A nervous, approval-seeking energy creates tension. A calm, aware energy creates safety. And women often feel that difference immediately. A man who can slow down, a man who listens. He stayed calm the entire time, didn't complain, didn't panic, quietly helped her navigate everything with patience. Now let's talk about flirting, because this is where so many men unintentionally sabotage themselves. That attraction most people never talk about, not performance, nervous system safety. They think they need perfect lines, nonstop confidence, or constant entertainment. But emotional safety, emotional steadiness, those become priceless. The most attractive flirting usually feels effortless because it's rooted in comfort rather than desperation. Do they feel calmer, seen, heard, safe, energized? Or do they feel pressure, confusion, emotional unpredictability? Because he wasn't trying to win her approval. And that brings us to one of the deepest secrets of all, becoming emotionally protective rather than emotionally reactive. When a man becomes overly focused on being liked, women often feel emotional pressure. Although that can matter too. Often they mean emotionally safe. The best flirting creates mutual enjoyment. It invites connection instead of demanding attention. A man who can stay grounded during emotional storms. That kind of stability creates profound attraction because emotionally grounded people are rare. Now let's move into one of the most underestimated gestures in attraction, touching her hair. And trust is the foundation of lasting attraction. Now this is important. Being emotionally steady does not mean tolerating disrespect or abandoning your own needs. She stiffens internally because her nervous system hasn't decided he feels emotionally safe yet. Women often feel safest with men who can remain calm without becoming passive. Men who communicate clearly without aggression. They've shared stories, she feels relaxed, there's mutual eye contact. Now let's talk about something physical for a moment, because there's an interesting psychological layer beneath it, the appeal of a beard. And honestly, this is where many modern conversations about dating become shallow. Across many cultures and throughout history, facial hair has been associated with wisdom, strength, and adulthood. But the real secret is not the beard itself. But somehow something is missing. It creates visual contrast that many women associate with masculine energy, and attraction often grows through polarity. It's about how a woman feels in your presence. A beard without confidence changes nothing. Muscles without emotional intelligence change nothing. Money without character changes nothing. The kind that makes a woman think about you long after the conversation ends. And honestly, some of the most attractive men are not the most physically perfect men. They are emotionally grounded men. Men who know who they are. And trust me, the final secret, and this leads perfectly into one of the most powerful emotional bonding tools in human relationships, shared laughter. Shared laughter is incredibly intimate. The feeling of complementary energies rather than identical ones. But here's where men misunderstand this entirely. No physical feature can compensate for weak emotional energy. When two people genuinely laugh together, their nervous systems synchronize emotionally for a moment. That's powerful. And this is why humor matters so much in attraction. Women may notice appearance initially, but emotional experience determines whether attraction deepens. But there's an important distinction here. The most attractive humor is rarely performative. It's not about trying too hard to be funny. It's about emotional ease. Men who are comfortable in themselves. There's something psychologically calming about a person who isn't desperately trying to prove their value. That calmness becomes magnetic. And women often remember emotional energy more than specific words. A woman may forget your exact joke. She will remember how she felt around you. In fact, psychologists often describe laughter as a social bonding mechanism because it lowers emotional defenses and creates feelings of closeness rapidly. That's emotional partnership, because laughter during difficult seasons becomes emotional resilience. And honestly, many men become so focused on appearing serious, not because women want entertainers, but because laughter creates emotional relief. Life is heavy, stressful, complicated. A person who helps you feel lighter becomes emotionally memorable. Strength without warmth can feel intimidating. Warmth without strength can feel unstable. But grounded masculinity contains both. Now let's move into perhaps the deepest secret of all, purpose. Have you ever noticed how some people make ordinary moments feel enjoyable? Nothing dramatic happens, yet you leave the interaction feeling happier. That's emotional energy. Thinks differently. There's emotional gravity to people who are building something meaningful. And no, purpose doesn't have to mean becoming wealthy or famous. Purpose could mean building a business. I remember hearing about a couple married for over 40 years. When asked what kept them connected, the wife smiled and said, "He still makes me laugh when life gets hard." That's deeper than attraction. Because purpose creates emotional depth. A man without direction often becomes emotionally dependent on relationships for identity and fulfillment, and that creates pressure. Mysterious or emotionally guarded that they accidentally become emotionally inaccessible. Women may admire them temporarily, but emotional warmth is what creates long-term closeness, instead of trying to extract it constantly. Purpose signals emotional maturity, and women often feel safest emotionally with men who know where they are going in life, even if they haven't arrived yet. Women are deeply drawn to men who have direction in life, not perfection, direction. A man with purpose carries different energy. He moves differently, speaks differently. She said, "He made me feel like life had direction." That's powerful. And notice something important. Purpose also protects relationships, because people who lose themselves completely inside romance, creating art, helping others, raising a family intentionally, pursuing mastery, healing yourself, living with discipline. The specific dream matters less than the emotional energy behind it. Love grows stronger when two complete people choose each other, not when two emotionally empty people try to rescue each other. And this is where many men get trapped. They think attracting a woman means obsessing over her constantly. Women can feel when they become the center of a man's emotional stability, and over time, that weight becomes exhausting. But a man with purpose brings energy into a relationship. Now, before we close, I want you to understand something very important. None of these secrets work if they become manipulation tactics. Women are not puzzles to solve. They are human beings to understand. That certainty creates emotional security. I once spoke with a woman who said the most attractive thing about her husband wasn't his appearance. It was the way his eyes changed when he talked about his goals, playfulness, boundaries. And yes, that work takes time. But the beautiful thing is this: when you genuinely grow emotionally, the way people respond to you changes automatically. Not because you learned tricks, because your energy changed. Often become emotionally unstable when challenges appear, but people connected to deeper meaning maintain emotional balance more easily. This is one reason emotionally healthy relationships require individuality as well as intimacy. The truth? The most unforgettable people are rarely the loudest. They are the people who make others feel deeply human around them. So if there's one message I want you to carry from this video, it's this: stop trying so hard to become impressive. Start becoming emotionally present. But healthy attraction often grows when a woman sees that you value your life, your mission, your peace, and your growth. Not because you're emotionally unavailable, because you're emotionally rooted. That changes everything. And if you know someone who needs this message, share this video with them. Sometimes one insight can completely shift how a person experiences relationships. Also, if you enjoy conversations about psychology, emotional intelligence, relationships, and personal growth, subscribe and join our community here on Senior Mindful Living. Real attraction is not about controlling someone emotionally. It's about becoming emotionally healthy enough to create meaningful connection naturally. That means developing presence, patience, self-respect, emotional regulation, purpose, warmth. The strongest relationships are built when two people feel emotionally safe enough to be fully themselves. And the man who understands that, he instantly separates himself from the 99%.